top of the hour, but I just learned StreamYard gets mad at me if we start late. Like won't go live.
Does it yell at you or does it block you out?
I don't know. I think we probably would get blocked. I'm not sure. But all right. Hey, welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve. I am Steve Harper, and with me is my co-host, the amazing Dr. Asha Prasad. Asha, how are you doing today?
Good, Steve. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm excited to be here today and, to talk about this topic that we're going to cover. But, I've got to start with something that I found pretty interesting. So I've actually been speaking with the Netherlands 2 days in a row. So for those of you that don't know, Dr. Asha is based over in the Netherlands. And yesterday I had an opportunity to interview my good friend, Pelpina Tripp, who has a book. You can see my ring light. Look at that.
Yep.
The Video Smart by Pelpina Tripp, making smartphone videos like a pro. And Asha, I kind of called you out yesterday on this interview. It's not out yet. It'll be out hopefully soon as I can edit it.
Okay.
She looked awesome. I need to edit myself apparently, but I said that we were talking about live streaming. We were talking about, all the things that camera and video can bring to someone's personal brand and, how to build a corporate brand utilizing video. And she's a master at that. She's so phenomenal.
She is.
But I said, you were part of the reason that we got into this whole live streaming thing. So I was, telling her that you were the reason, that we even went and found this technology and took some of her tips and applied it. And I have you completely to blame for it. So
thank you. I take that blame. I take it.
Well, she said it's one of those things that the podcast that we were doing, recording it, that was awesome. And, certainly a great way to build our brand for the show. But at the end of the day, it was the video that really ties people in from a personality perspective. I actually think it probably works against us a little bit because people see you as this amazing expert. And then they're like, who's this, this sidekick, Ed McMahon guy?
Ed McMahon. Do people know who Ed McMahon is?
Of course. Yeah. It's really sad. Maybe that's true. I made a Brady Bunch reference the other day to one of my team guys on my team for my software company. He just looked at me like, what's the Brady Bunch? Like, oh my God.
Oh, man. No, I'm just kidding with you, Steve. I'm just kidding. Of course, people know who he is.
I think so. Johnny Carson's sidekick for a long time. Anyway, so I just had to give you mad props because, you were part of the reason we started doing this. And I don't know about your side of the pond, if you're getting the great feedback that I'm getting, but we have a lot of people that said, they just love our chemistry. They like our, our personalities and our approach. We're just kind of fun to listen to.
I'm getting a lot of good feedback actually, Steve, because, I have a lot of clients all over the place, even in Asia and Australia. And it's very interesting because some of those people were listening to us whenever we didn't have video. They liked it, but they really love the fact that they can see us face to face and be able to engage with us in that way. So I've been getting a lot of good feedback about that. So,
awesome.
I'm glad that we did this.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I was telling her yesterday, I said, the thing is it really makes you bring your A game. Because I think before, not that I was laying on the floor, with just my mic up and just like kick back and chilling, while we recorded the podcast. Maybe I did that. I'm not going to admit anything. But when you flip on the camera, it requires, I have to have shirt on. That helps. And most of the time I'm wearing pants. So that works out. And it just makes me bring my A game because, you don't want to embarrass yourself on video.
Well, it's interesting, Steve, because I think one of the things that a lot of people have been realizing this past year now that people have been working more at home and doing more meetings, we're going to talk about your mug in just a second, but we're coming back to that.
It wasn't intentional.
Don't think that you could just sneak with that bright green mug to take a sip and it not get talked about. No, but I think it's interesting because it's like whenever you switch on the camera, yes, you are like, okay, I'm here. I'm talking to this person, engaging with other people. I mean, we have other people joining in, but it's kind of interesting what that does. It just changes your mindset in that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really, it's really helped me in a lot of ways. And it's actually helped me take my video game up to a different level, even when I'm not live streaming. And so I
Yeah.
really have you
Right.
and Pelpina to thank for that, because it really was the kick in the pants that I kind of needed. And her book is Video Smart, Making Smartphone Videos Like a Pro. There are just tons and tons of tips.
Yeah.
This episode is not sponsored by her. Unless she wants to send us a check, that'd be awesome. We could then say it was. But this book is jam-packed with what type of equipment you can use,
Yeah.
how to get your audio just correct. But her thing is, hey, look, everybody's got the means in their pocket right now. Most of us have smartphones, and the cameras that have come on to these devices are so far ahead of where even some of the cameras that are being sold on the market are. Flipping it on and going and doing an Instagram live or Periscope like we are on right now. Those things become a lot easier. And she's a really good encourager of taking whatever you have in terms of thoughts, ideas, expertise, and bringing it to video.
Yeah, no, she's great. She's awesome. I've followed her for years, actually, ever since she started, and she has got some awesome tips. I love like her resources, and it's true. Like, the equipment that she recommends, everything. I love her stuff. So definitely for those out there, please go check her out. I think that's awesome.
Well, she's in your neighborhood. I was like, how do you guys not know each other? So we've
I
got
know,
to make
isn't that
that
weird?
connection. The other thing that I thought it was really weird, everything comes in threes, they say, right? So yesterday was Pelpina. I already knew I was going to, be visiting with you today. And then on the way in today, I was listening to Sirius Satellite, and they were talking about, they have one of these throwback, rock stations. I don't really know what it is, classic rock or whatever, or it's the classic cassette era. And they talked about Lou Ottens, the inventor of the cassette tape. He's Dutch. He just passed away at age 94.
Yep. No, that's true. That's true. It's so interesting, Steve, because it's there are so many people, so many famous Dutchmen, Dutch women that you would never have known before until you just kind of happen to learn it after the fact. It's very interesting. They're very innovative people, actually. That's very interesting. Yeah.
They were talking about, just what he did. He went to work, working on I think at the time with Philips, Philips company. And he came up with the original design for track-to-track communication. And, they essentially were utilizing it as a means to just, record, key things that, they never anticipated it having this huge impact on the music industry, but they have often said that the cassette tape killed the vinyl. And what's really weird is, all of that stuff is coming back, right? I can blame Mr. Lou for consuming almost all of my dollars as a teenager. Because the DJ was talking about, it's like, the cassette tapes took over your car. They were everywhere, right? They just had a mind of their own, but there was just something significant about holding this tape in your hand and popping it in and playing it as loud as you could possibly hear, play. And probably why I can't hear anything these days. But the Walkman and all the different things that were out there where you could carry music in your pocket before the iPod. You young people, this is you would only get 14 songs. It was really kind of a bummer. You had to replace it with another artist and put that thing in and listen and flip it over the whole 9 yards. But it was kind of interesting that I had brush with the Netherlands 3 times in a day and a half.
Interesting, Steve. Maybe it's time you come out here for a visit.
Yeah, I think that would be great if we can get this pandemic under wraps. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, this is true. This is very, very true.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought you might find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. Wow. Very cool.
Yep. So what's our topic today?
So today we are going to be talking about how to delegate, actually, like how to deal with the overwhelm of the things that you have in play and how to learn how to delegate when it's time. And I think this is something, Steve, that a lot of my clients deal with, I have dealt with, you've dealt with people that you've worked with. And I think it's very important to kind of talk about this because, it's one of those things that we can really run ourselves ragged and just try to do everything and think that we have to do everything when in fact we really don't. And it can be that easy, actually. It can be that simple to be able to say, okay, I need to delegate certain things. What am I good at? What am I not good at? What do I like doing? What do I maybe like a little bit less doing? Those kinds of things. So, I mean, are you dealing with this currently? I'm curious, Steve. Are you dealing with this currently that you're having trouble delegating things?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm a bit of a control freak. So letting things, taking things off my plate and putting them onto somebody else's can be a problem. And I think one of the reasons that this kind of bubbled up for the conversation today was really, how do you know when you're at that point where you have to do it, right? And you're working against yourself, or you're putting your attention on too many things, so you're not getting anything done. That tends to be one of the things that I think people run into when they're not willing to let go. And I do think that delegation is super critical to productivity. And I think for business owners and entrepreneurs, especially, thinking we have to get it all done ourselves is a real common problem.
I think so too. I think also the perfectionism is a problem, like thinking that I'm the only one that can do it the way I want it done. And, of course, we all have our unique ways of doing things, but in order to really entrust people, there's that cup again. I'm telling you, we're going to talk about that. Okay. So we're going to be talking to your mug. Steve, I have to say, where did you get that mug? Was that a gift recently, or?
Oh yeah, I got it for Christmas.
About it.
Delegation. Yeah, I got it from my son and wife because they know I'm such a Star Wars nerd. But it's really good until you get it too full, but you can't probably see in the cup. But the coffee goes in his ears, which just kind of weird, kind of creeps me out a little bit. But drinking from coffee from Yoda's head is very delicious. I recommend it.
Does it give you more wisdom?
I think so. It does make me feel smarter on the days that I use this cup. So, delegation. Yes. Anyway,
my God.
You were saying, sorry.
That's okay.
I'll try and keep him off camera, so I'll just drink out of his ear over here.
Oh, God. That's just weird, drinking out of his ear. Anyway, just, I don't know. No, but it's really about like letting go of that. You said something about control, being controlling and being perfectionist. It's one and the same. It's like, can you trust somebody to do a job? And even if they don't do it exactly the way you would have done it, if the job can get done, and if it's something that is taking up too much of your time, because all these little tiny things add up. We may think, oh yeah, I can do that really quick. Oh yeah, I can jump on that really quickly. By the time, we've done all that, it's like, is that really a useful, is that a good use of our time, basically?
Yeah.
And I think that perfectionism is a tough one. And the control, like what you were saying, how have you been able to move past that?
Well, I think at some point, if you've got a growing business of any kind, you eventually get there, right? And so I think you have to have periodic check-ins with yourself to really kind of ask yourself, where should I be investing my time? Where should I be putting my efforts? And even the smallest task takes quite a bit of brain power for you to do. And if you're dividing that out over half a dozen or a dozen things that you've got to get accomplished for your business, it doesn't make sense. And there is a natural tendency for you to have that thought process that, well, if I'm not going to do it, nobody will do it, or nobody will get it done quite as well as I would. And so that becomes the reason for us, or the excuse that we make up in our own minds to just continue to hold all of that. And that's where I think a lot of people run into the problem, myself included, is not checking in with yourself enough to look at what you have on your plate. And I think part of that comes down to good organization of understanding where you need to invest your attention. You and I both know a good friend of ours, Mara Thomas, who wrote a book called holy crap, Attention Management. Attention Management.
You got our attention.
Yeah, we got
our attention.
I don't even know what just fell. Something fell. Something requiring my attention right now. Anyway, she wrote a book called Attention Management. Not that I'm doing promotions of books today, but it really gave me some really good perspective on where I need to invest my time and effort. And you can't control everything and you can't get everything done at one time. And so you have to realize that it does take a concentrated effort to focus on the things that are most important. And some of those things that we're holding on to are really things that we really have no business touching, especially as business owners and leaders, right? How about you? How do you find that you end up being in a situation where it's time for you to start looking and evaluating what you need to take off your plate?
I mean, one of the things that I do, Steve, on a regular basis is I do evaluate. So basically, at the end of the week, or I usually like to do this on Sunday evening for me, just to kind of look at what I've got for the upcoming week. And I really kind of prioritize and categorize what I've got on my plate. And it's like, okay, these are the things that I am good at. I can do efficiently. I can get done. I need to be the one that needs to do that, like really seriously. And then these are the things that it could go either way. I could delegate it. And so I kind of break it down like that. And then that's where I just start. That's where I start. And that has helped me. This is something probably in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I've really started really honing in on, because I realized as I started expanding both of my businesses and started getting more things to do, I couldn't be doing all those little things. I mean, I can't keep going for 24/7. That just doesn't work. Need to sleep, need to do some other things. And then I started realizing, wait a second, I can still have a good overview and be able to manage what's going on, but I don't have to have, my 2 cents into everything all the time. Trust the people, find people that I trust, and really, really entrust them into carrying out tasks and know that it will get done. That sometimes takes time. It depends on how well you've built a relationship with somebody. But it can be done. And that's one of the things that I do. So I'm constantly evaluating this. I mean, literally on a daily, weekly basis. I mean, in the middle of the day, something comes up that I have no business taking my time to do, that I know somebody else can do it a lot quicker, more efficiently. Then that's what I do. I, set forward an email, give them a quick message, whatever it is that I need to do, and say, hey, can you take care of this? And I just know and trust that it'll be done.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's key, right? You've got to have people that you've brought on board that can, whether it be a virtual assistant or someone that you're hiring as a part-time, full-time employee, you got to make sure that you're hiring for the people that are people that can get stuff done, right? And that are going to be a difference maker in your business. And I think a lot of times, we anticipate that people will do it, but then we tend to have this backslide that we bring people in to help us, but we then don't give up the control, or we don't take the time or energy to actually stop to say, hey, what do I need to delegate? What needs to come off my plate? And why do I continue? And ask yourself, why do you continue to want to hold on to these things? Because there are, and I see it in a lot of my coaching clients, there are things that they obsess over that are really taking away from their energy and their enthusiasm for the business, because they are a mental or physical drain on them, and yet they will not give them up. And I find that especially with entrepreneurs, we like to be very task oriented. We oftentimes like to be, we always tend to kind of side with ourselves as being very accomplished individuals. And so I think it's easy for an entrepreneur to fall into that trap of wanting to show we accomplished something that day. Whether it be the smallest task possible, or, just something that we can sort of hang our hat on and say, look what I did.
Exactly.
When we really should be thinking on our business, we should be focusing on strategy, or we should be out making, better, deals, or having better connections, or spending our time on trying to figure out how to get the best scan of our receipts, or something ridiculous that is important, but it's not the level of importance that you need to be spending your time. And I think that it's not only just the fact that you are wasting that energy and that time and effort, but it comes down to an economic return on that investment of time, right? Don't you find that?
It is. It really is. And you know what, Steve, it's really interesting, because I have a client that I'm working with right now that seems to distract himself very easily with all these small mundane things in order to play small. You know what I mean? It's like he's holding himself back subconsciously, And we've talked about it and we've been working through it, and he's making strides with it, but it was a very confronting kind of thing for him to realize that, oh my God, I am the one who's holding myself back because
Yeah.
I'm busying myself with all these little mundane things that can easily delegate to his assistant, but he just wasn't doing it. It was like he was keeping himself very small. And it's been very interesting because there's a bit of vulnerability there that he
Sure.
had to kind of get in touch with to be able to say, okay, you know what? I need to utilize my energy for exactly what it is that I'm wanting to do with my business. And that's where I'm going to thrive and succeed. And it was a very interesting thing. So you've also got that on the sidelines that maybe somebody subconsciously could be kind of holding themselves back by busying
Absolutely.
themselves with all this stuff.
Well, and you actually just hit on a really important word, small. Small wins
Yeah.
are still just small. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of times that you have to look at where your time, energy, and effort is going. And no
Mm-hmm.
matter how many small wins that you're doing, it's probably not moving the needle for your business. It's probably not
Right.
helping you get those bigger things accomplished because they become larger distractions. And what I find is a lot of people
Yeah.
get in this kind of death spiral and this
Mm-hmm.
cycle of just looking for more small things to look for to accomplish, and they
Exactly.
don't. It's a sense of avoidance, and I think there,
It is.
to a certain degree, like you said, there is this fear that you have to face to say, well, look, not only am I giving up control on these things that I know that I can accomplish and probably do
Mm-hmm.
it better than anybody, and we don't want to take away any of your credit for doing so, but at the end of the day, it's also an avoidance mechanism.
It is.
You have to be doing some things that are going to make big impressions on your business, and you're going to have to potentially put yourself out for longer periods of time that don't
Mm-hmm.
immediately give you that dopamine hit of finishing a
Right.
task because there's long-term potential, but anything worth accomplishing takes time and effort, and you need to put it in the things that are going to make sizable differences for your business going forward.
Yeah, that is true. Like what we were talking about earlier, Steve, about us going on video for our podcast, for example,
Hmm.
or even for our own individual businesses. I mean, I'm sure that both of us at some point had some hesitation about that, had a million, and two reasons why not to do it, or why I don't have time to do it, or whatever it is, whatever it is. But as soon as we, just jumped over that hurdle and said, we're just going to do this, things
Yeah.
started to change
Yeah.
in every way, not just with our podcast that we're doing, but in our own businesses, in our own way of engaging with people. Several years ago, I had a belief for myself in my own business that I was only going to be on video with my one-on-one clients or my private groups that I was teaching.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I had that in my mind. And it was one of those things that I had to just, because people were just like, hey, Asha, do you have a YouTube channel or do you have other videos? And I'm just like, I've been like avoiding it. And it was my own stuff, my own way of me keeping myself playing small on some
Yeah.
levels. And then finally, I just got over it and said, you know what? I actually want to do this. I want to connect with people. They don't have to be working with me one-on-one or in my group classes. I just want to be helping people. So it was when I changed that perspective and just took the leap of faith, that's where it changed.
Yeah.
And, there's no looking back now. It's just like, okay, this is just part of being of service in our, in our businesses and in our way of helping people. And I think maybe that's also something, Steve, I would say is it may be the perception that you have or the perspective that you have that may be holding you back from delegating as well.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
Absolutely.
you
No,
say?
I would say that, and it's, not to plug either one of us as coaches, but it's all the reason that you would need to get a coach as a
Yeah.
potential business owner or a manager or just
Yeah.
a department lead. Uh,
Right.
when you can get that perspective from someone outside of your purview, right? Someone
Right.
outside of your group that can kind of hear what's going on, some of the things that are potentially holding you back or limiting your ability to be successful. Those things are not always often obvious to
Right.
you when you're in the weeds, but somebody that's hearing how recount your day or where you spend your time or your
Yeah.
energy, your effort, a good coach will actually be able to identify a couple of those things that you have no idea are holding you back. And with a
Yeah.
few behavioral changes and the ability for you to release the control to
Mhm.
put other tasks in other people's hands that are perfectly capable of accomplishing it, then you'll start to have that shift, right? That change in that perspective. And that's super critical. So I think it's really important that if you are really committed to your career path, whatever it might be, running your own business, being the best leader you can be, even being the best employee, coaching can be a really big value to you, not only professionally, but also personally, because there are things that you're probably repeating that you do in your work life that you're probably doing in your personal life that are also holding you back from being able to, fully experience and enjoy your free time. Because you're not willing to let it go.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I mean, but that's true. See, I mean, we are at the center of everything that we do. Wherever we go, there we are, right? So the way that we're showing up in our personal life and our professional life is exactly the same way that we're showing up in our personal life and vice versa. So it's one of those things. It's like, okay, how do I want to show up? Am I getting frustrated of things that, if I'm having communication problems, for example, with my colleagues at work, I'm probably having communication problems personally in my relationships as well.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Why not address the problem at the root and, be able to shift that in, all areas.
Absolutely. Well, I just put out, if you happen to be watching this on our live stream, thank you for joining us for Conversations with Asha and Steve. This is our podcast, but we also are live streaming it. And so if you have any questions, feel free to pop those in. We will, if we don't even see them, if it doesn't come into our feed software, we will definitely see them after the show. We'll definitely get responses back. But I know that this is an important topic for a lot of people, and it's a real challenge for a lot of folks. When to let go, when to know to let go, and to feel comfortable delegating. I got a question for you, Asha, that
Sure.
how do you know when you mentioned it earlier, right? Knowing that you could do it better than someone else, but does that mean you should? How do you avoid micromanaging on the tasks that you assign? Because I think that's a real problem. I know it is a real problem for me, because I know I'm giving you something that I could accomplish probably in half the time and do it the way I want it done.
Exactly.
How do you get comfortable with letting go for someone to take it and not drive them absolutely bonkers by the follow-up?
Oh, I've driven a lot of people bonkers and still do. Actually, I know that for a fact.
I will attest to that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, Steve, you're one of them. So. No, but one of the things I think definitely micromanaging is a tricky thing, because we all want to do it, especially as entrepreneurs, because we have this vision, we have this way that we want to do it. And that's like the only way for us, right? But one of the things that I have found is that I ask myself the questions, like, if there's something that someone returns back to me that they've completed, hey, just want to get your check off on this. I'll look at it and I know I will find the things and be like, oh, that could have been done different. And if it's important enough, I will give them the feedback. But if it's not, I just let it go. I'm like, okay, great. Thanks so much. Let's put it out there. And I've been practicing doing that, but there are certain things that I don't let go because it's going to impact the business, or it's going to impact something in a bigger way. And when you work with people long enough, they start to learn what's important to you, because you can communicate to them why I feel like this is important, why I want this done. And once they start to understand that, they're going to start doing those things already ahead of the game. And so it gets to the point where they're sending you stuff and you can easily check off, and you've got that trust of communication between the two of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Christina Brewer joined us today, and she's telling us, she would like to delegate the laps that she owes me back from our soccer days.
I think that's a great idea.
I do not personally. I only coach soccer because I did not want to run.
Oh God.
I have a belief that you should only run when chased. So, but don't believe in my perspective on that, Christina. You still owe me 197 laps.
What?
I think. Yeah,
how did that happen?
Well, it's interest. I mean, it's been 20 years since she played for me, but I have a long memory. I can't delegate that away.
20 years. I think it's just completely, it's like nothing. She doesn't owe you anything, Steve.
Don't listen to her, Christina.
I'm absolving her.
You definitely owe me the laps. Let's just say it right now. It's true. I just don't have my whistle.
Yeah.
Well, what you said is really true. And what I find is that when you actually sort of let yourself go. Oh, are you hearing me twice?
No, I'm
Okay.
hearing you once.
Oh, well, that was weird. I heard myself. Maybe Christina's putting some sort of weird soccer voodoo mojo on me. I don't know.
I think it's drinking from the ears from that mug that's messing with your own ears.
Yes, it is. I should just do this. You'd probably get better views if I just had this held up the whole time. Like, hello.
Oh my God.
Dr. Asha. Anyway, the freedom that you find when you've delegated stuff, and that when you place the trust in the right people to do the things that need to be done, that newfound freedom can be liberating, right? It can allow you to kind of feel like you've got this mental weight that you've removed from yourself.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. What have you seen with your clients when they actually make this shift? They give up the control, and they really start to recognize that they can become far more productive, and their attention is on the right things that really help them start moving the needle on their business.
It's interesting, Steve, because you know what? It does increase their productivity, but it also increases their passion and creativity. That's something that I have found across the board, even for myself, as I let go of things. It allows me the energy and space to be able to just focus on the things I love to create. I get more passionate about things that I want to do, and get more ideas, and really I'm able to tap into that creativity in such a way. And you feel more energized. You don't have that weight on your shoulders. I mean, if you are doing things with complete dread, I mean, think about how much energy that takes. My goodness. Like, is that really worth it? Is that the way you want to spend your days? I don't think so.
Well, just even thinking about it, right, is like a huge drain on energy suck right there. Just like, oh God, I got to go in the office and do that. Right.
Exactly. So that's the biggest thing that I've seen for a lot of people, a lot of the clients, is that they just get, I don't know, they get energized. It's like they just kind of get all this energy and all this creativity that comes in, and they get more, just like focused on whatever they're passionate about. That's the biggest thing. How about you, Steve? What have you noticed for yourself and for people you've worked with?
Well, I think part of it was sort of a revelation to hire for the right fit for what needs to be done, as opposed to hiring. I always call myself a bit of a generalist in a lot of ways, because I have enough brain cells to adapt to different things within my business, and running 3 different companies. I sort of have to be that. But at the end of the day, there were a lot of things that, completely drained me, because there were, different activities that I really wasn't best suited for. And so really at the end of the day, it really required that I take a hard look at what could I continue to hold on to and probably not accomplish very well for the business, or by extension be holding the business back because I'm not doing it, or not doing it as well as it needed to be. And there are other elements of, things that I just absolutely desperately hated. And now, just like you said, that sense of dread that you walk in with, like, oh my God, it's Thursday, reconciliation day, or accounts receivable collection call day. Oh my God, no, I'm not. My time, I think, really it required me to follow my own advice that I would give to my consulting and my coaching clients, is that how much is your time worth? And what is that return on investment on your time? And when you start to really understand where your value is, but also what's driving or what's taking away and costing you from really recognizing that value, you realize pretty quickly that you're doing something that you could have been doing, that you could have been paying somebody at maybe a lower salary rate to do those things. And they can accomplish it maybe, again, not as well as that you could have, because we all know you're awesome and freaking great at everything you do, right? I'm not talking about you. I'm just having that conversation with myself, right?
You have a mirror there,
wow.
Steve.
I feel like I'm in like some sort of psychologist or psychiatrist office right now. Anyway, we know you're awesome, Steve, but you really shouldn't be spending the time doing these things. And when you start to do that, it really is, it is eye-opening how much time we waste. And it's really, not just the money situation, right? And the investment of your
Right.
time and your effort, but it's also a really eye-opening experience to realize how much you're hiding within your business,
Yes.
doing that stuff. And so for me, that was pretty liberating over the last year or two, because especially this past year, because you had to be a lot more efficient in a lot of things, because
Hmm.
you may have not been in the office with everybody because of the pandemic, right? People
Yeah.
people really had to leverage the resources available to them to get things more collaboratively done,
Yeah.
which meant in certain aspects that, you couldn't or didn't need to be involved in every decision that was being made or every task or
Yeah.
activity that was happening. And those things became pretty eye-opening for me. And so I think I actually am coming out of this whole situation quite a bit different, right? And quite a bit better.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
You know,
yeah, go
Steve, I
ahead.
just wanted to just add something on what you were just saying about, also keep in mind too, you are empowering your team members and people that they actually love doing those things that you may not like doing or
Yeah.
don't have the time for. Think about it from that perspective too, because you're empowering somebody else. You're
Yep.
also building trust amongst your team, that they know, okay, this person's in charge of this person's in charge of that. And I just know for a fact that if I send things their way, it's going to get done. And there's something about building that culture within your team also that I think is really important.
Yeah. Candace just actually gave us a comment on Facebook that I
Mhm.
think was awesome. I totally agree. I've been and still making this shift in my life right now, and I identify
Mhm.
what or who needs to change
Yeah.
by if it ends up being an energy draining activity or person. And she continued, um, and as they have been removed, my
Yeah.
creativity has been coming back. That's exactly what
Awesome.
you're saying. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome, Candy,
Awesome.
for you to acknowledge and recognize that. And
Yeah.
it's a big, realization when it happens. And,
It is.
it's surrounding yourself with the right people. And obviously, if you're working in a company and you're not directly responsible for hiring or firing, that can be a challenge, because you kind of
Yeah.
have to deal with the people that you're forced to work with. And that's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
But I always tell people that you control what you can control. And at the end of the
Exactly.
day, there are things that that you're really good at. If you evaluate your skills, you understand the value
Mhm.
that you bring to whatever the task might be. And it doesn't have to just be work. It could be volunteering for a nonprofit, or participating at your kid's school, or whatever
Exactly.
these things are. I see it with my wife all the time. Kathy is involved in the booster club for our high school
Mhm.
soccer team, and she's done a number of different things. But every time, she's always kind of evaluated where she can bring the biggest value,
Mhm.
and not concern herself with a bunch of stuff that's just going to drive her nuts, right? And
Exactly.
up to including, just the little, political BS that goes on with some of those organizations,
Right.
trying to,
Right.
extricate herself from those things so she can maximize her time and her energy, because
Mhm.
she has other things that she needs to do. And let's face it, we all do, right? Whether we're caring for an
Exactly.
aging parent, like I know Candy is, trying to build our side hustle and get our business off the ground, or we're just trying to be the
Yeah.
best possible leader or employee that we can. You've got to understand, what those skill sets are in yourself. And then you also have to say, okay, where are my weaknesses? Where are my blind spots? Where are
Yeah.
some of the things that I really need to fill in terms of support? And then start actively, looking for that help,
Mhm.
either getting additional team members to step up, or, hiring for a particular fit or role. I think that's really key. So it's evaluating and taking a deeper dive on yourself, but it's also taking a deeper dive to understand all the things that you aren't probably really good at, that
Yeah.
probably need to come off your plate anyway.
Yeah. That's true. That's great advice. That's really good, Steve. I agree with you on that.
Well, so let me ask you, when you have found yourself with this newfound freedom
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur, what has that allowed you to do?
It's allowed me to really expand my business in a way that I didn't really visualize before, but it's also allowed me to learn other aspects of my creativity, other things that I'm passionate about, freed up time to be able to do some things and volunteer and assist with causes that I'm passionate about and do other things like that, Steve. I mean, I think the biggest thing is that it's just allowed that it's taken the weight off the shoulders and it's just been like, okay, you know what? Now I can actually do some of these things and be open to new ideas, new possibilities
Yep.
that I probably would never have been before because I was so consumed with also, and that goes also to what Candace was talking about, was that um, also distancing from certain relationships that were draining as well.
Yeah.
That really, really helped to be able to have discernment really in what I was doing and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to spend my time.
Yeah, that's great. And
Yeah.
because of that, I think your business is just, taken off because you have been able
Yeah.
to put that energy and effort into the things that you most enjoy and that you benefit from. And I've seen that in your growth as an entrepreneur over the last several years by finding the right people and putting them in
Yeah.
place and releasing some of that control.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to sell the value of doing it, but also don't want to undersell the challenge that we all experience by giving up some of that control.
Yeah.
Part of that comes down to just really truly understanding who you need to have on your team and who can be there to
Exactly.
support you and take those tasks off the plate. The interesting thing that we touched on, and I wanted to come back to before
Hmm.
we finish up today, was you know you mentioned everybody controlling those things, and you can't do it as well as I would do it. Giving up
Hmm.
that control can be scary. Having or building that trust to let somebody do it their way or to get it done. One of the things that I find that is important is if you want something done a particular way, then you need to give better directions. So,
Exactly. Yeah,
you
you have
know,
to communicate it. Yeah,
I see that
absolutely.
happen a lot in
Yeah.
especially corporate dynamics where
Yes.
people maybe are starting to let things off their plate
Hmm.
and they want things done and they're trying not to micromanage, but then they're really critical about
Yes.
the deliverable that the other person does. And I think you have to ask yourself, how much control am I willing to give up relative to the task? But is it a task that I can feel comfortable that no matter how they deliver it, I'm going to be okay with the end result and leave that as it is? Or
Exactly.
if I know that, these three boxes need to be checked throughout the process, then you should spend your time saying, this is not only what I shouldn't be doing, but if I was going to do it, here's how I would like to get it done, and give
Right.
at least the rules of the game so that you don't end up frustrating whoever you've given the task to.
Exactly.
Because no matter how they do it or however it ends up working out, they'll never fully accomplish it because they'll see that disappointment in your eyes. And that works
Yeah.
against you too, because you may have a really great asset that you end up chasing off because you're
Yeah.
trying to drive them nuts.
That's so true, Steve. That clear communication is key. I mean, there's one thing that we all can work on, any is the way we communicate. How
Yeah.
clear are we communicating? Are we communicating exactly what we mean to say and what we mean to write to one another? That's very important.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and you'll be surprised, right? You'll
Yes.
find that there are things that you may not want to delegate away that you really did have your skill and ability and you were best
Hmm.
suited for it. Because you've taken some of the other mundane tasks off your plate. It opens up perspective to allow you to invest your time and energy and effort. I remember when we started talking about doing the live stream, I was like, "Oh my God, could we use your VA to do this?" I mean, I was
Hmm.
a little
Yeah.
concerned with even taking something on, but I removed something from my schedule. And what I really realized was, we could probably get somebody to do this for us or help us
Yeah.
set it up and get us coordinated. But man, what a monumental effort that is to do that,
Yeah.
especially if we are so far distance wise, time zone wise.
Right.
Trying to coordinate that between three parties is a real challenge. So I took
Right.
on the task of deciding to remove a couple of things from my plate and really dive in to understand the technology and the approach that we took. Pelpina Tripp and her advice was phenomenal in
There you go.
understanding what live streaming was about and how to kind of
Yeah.
get this. And those first live streams were a little bit rough. My bad on a couple of things because you just don't know what you don't know. But I had the freedom to explore it, and I felt like I was
Yeah.
investing my time in something that really was worthwhile, and that was far more rewarding
Yeah.
than trying to take it off my plate just for the sake of taking off my plate.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that, Steve, as well, is that um, whenever you learn things, I mean, we've learned some things and you've learned a lot on this, on, doing live streams and everything through this whole process. If in the future we have somebody that we want to delegate things to, we know
Yep.
what it takes. We know what all's involved in it. And that really is helpful as well. I think sometimes to know what all is involved in something before you delegate.
Yep, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
and like Candy just talked about the first part of the pandemic, it became important, so important to communicate. Extremely,
Yeah.
extremely clear communication when you're in the virtual environment was so
Yes.
key. And then it became better to over communicate just a bit in order to make sure the task was done correctly. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I mean that becomes somewhat important because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that they're doing things the right way. But at the end of the day, then you want to be able to back off and let it just happen. And that
Yeah.
becomes, one of the critical components that I do see a lot of leaders, especially entrepreneurs, because we're control freaks and
Yeah.
type A personalities, a lot of us. Maybe just me, I don't know. And sometimes we have a hard time letting go. And so
Yeah.
part of that is just you've got to understand it. I mean, kind of if we were going to wrap this up in a nice, neat little bow, you've got to really do some internal self-reflection. And you
Yes.
really got to understand what your skill sets are and where they're best aligned with your time and understand what your return on investment is. Anything else that you want to throw in that you think might be helpful for a business leader of any kind, working either as a
Yeah.
just a department head, being a better employee, or our entrepreneurs or business leaders that are watching this show?
Yeah, you know what, Steve? I think it's really, it doesn't matter where you are right now. Maybe you're just like swimming in the overwhelm. There are ways to step out of it. You might just need a different perspective on things. You might need an outside, a third party to be able to help you with this. I just encourage people to start, even if you want to start with something just right now, is just start with, writing down all your tasks and really being honest with yourself.
Yep.
What am I good at? What can I do? What really needs to be off my plate? And,
Yeah.
start there. Start with something small like that, but it's a huge thing because that will start to give you more clarity of exactly, is it time? Is it not time? What do I need to do?
Yeah. Well, and,
Yeah,
and and like you said, like you evaluate that once a week.
I do.
And it's a constant, never-ending process. And so I
It
think one
is.
of the key components, and as Mara Thomas says in her book, Attention Management, where do I want to place my attention for the biggest results? Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
understanding those key components, I think, are pretty critical. And then giving good, clear, concise direction about what you are
Yeah,
delegating and what needs to get done, even so much so with the communication of timelines and expectation on the
yeah.
deliverables, I think very key. And there's one other thing that I think that we didn't
Mhm,
touch on that I think is good just as we finish up here is that
mhm.
you become a better person in a lot of ways. You become
Yeah,
a better communicator, you become a better
yes.
leader. People start to see how you operate and function,
Mhm.
and people adapt. And if you've hired the
They
right
do.
people, they will adapt and they will find more things that you are holding on to that they can take off your
Yes.
plate. You'll find they'll come to you for additional tasks because guess what?
Yeah,
They're probably doing it at half the time you would have done it anyway. And they're
yeah,
seeing where some of your blind spots are because you're not. And so that becomes a really unique benefit from, sort of starting to give up this control and letting some of that stuff go. That's
yeah.
a big value for you, I think, as an individual.
Yeah, that's true, Steve. That's a good point. That's true.
Well, so this has been a really fantastic conversation, as they always are, and you've got some great ideas, and I know that people are going to want to connect with you on social media. So, how best would it be for people to find you on the web, kind of understand how to get in
Mhm.
touch with you if they want to learn more about your work?
Yep. So the best way is to visit my website, theprasadmethod.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, underneath the Prasad Method. So just reach out whichever way. We've got ways to be able to monitor that, but send me any messages or anything like that, and be sure to let me know how I could help and whatever your issues are. Also, Steve, I want to say that for people to be able to contact us specifically for our podcast and for the work that we're doing together, I would say they could go to our website, conversationswithashaandsteve.com, and also connect with us on Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How about you, Steve? How could people engage with you?
You can find me on almost every social platform at
Hmm.
Rippleon, Rippleon. And you can also find me on the website, ripplecentral.com. And yeah, that's pretty much how I'm out there. Try to put, new content out every day via Twitter for the most part, just to give, people a little positive nudge in the right direction. So that's generally the best way. But certainly you can find us on Conversations with Asha and Steve. You can find, both of us, contacted both of us through that website or through our individual websites. Be happy to talk to you if you're struggling or challenged with any of the items that we've talked about today. We certainly are happy to, to have that conversation and see what we can do to contribute. And thanks, Candace, for that great comment right there. Great combo to start the end of my work week. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, my friend. And we still need to talk, Candy, about doing our thing on Clubhouse. Asha, you got to upgrade your phone to an iPhone. Let's just be honest.
I know. I used to have an iPhone for the longest time, and I don't know. Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, Android sucks.
It has its drawbacks. I agree.
iPhone has no drawbacks. It's just the most awesome, coolest technology on the planet. I'm just going to say it. You've got to do it, because then we could be doing this on Clubhouse too. So that's all the motivation you need right there. We could just be like, we could be doing this. We could be live streaming. Palpina's like smiling somewhere because she knows that you and her both, kicked me in the butt to get this thing going with the camera. But we're on. For those of you that are tuning into this in audio and you're like, what are they talking about? We have a YouTube channel, Conversations with Asha and Steve. We are also on Facebook, obviously, live streaming via Facebook. We're also on Periscope currently. And LinkedIn doesn't seem to like us. I don't know. I think it's me. If it was just Dr. Asha, I think they would probably approve us. But they're like, oh, no, that dude, no. Keep him off of our stuff. So... but we would love to, find other platforms and environments to actually carry the show to, and Clubhouse might be a good one.
Yeah. Okay, so, Steve, I will look into it.
All right. Cool. Well, hey, Asha, it was great talking to you as always. I really hope you have a great rest of your day. Your day is almost over there.
Yes, it is.
In person. On a Friday, but my day is just ahead. So the 7-hour time difference. When we go to the next show, are we going to be 6 hours closer, or are we going to be 8 hours?
Yeah, because we don't change our time until the end of the month. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be 6 hours time difference.
Oh, and then when you do change, are we
back to 7?
So for 2 weeks, we're 6 hours closer. That's just weird.
Silly. I know.
Why can't you guys just do what we do? Why does anybody even have to change the time?
That's my question. Why does anybody have to change, period? Just, go with I think this is actually the real time right now. The winter time is the real time.
Yeah.
So let's just stay with this,
I agree. That whole thing throws me off. It's crazy. Now I'll be going to the gym at 4 a.m. as opposed to 5 a.m. I hate the spring, because you should be happy with spring, not go backwards. Or is it forwards?
It's forwards. Spring forward. Oh gosh.
Maybe that's why I'm late to everything after we go through the time change. I don't know. I'm either really early or really late. All right. Well, you have a great weekend. It was another great show as always. Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you to everybody that joined us, and everybody have a great weekend.
Yeah. Like Christina Brewer just said, stay excellent. We will do our best and get out there and do those laps, Christina. Just say.
You don't have to, Christina. You don't have to.
I'm ending the broadcast now, Christina. Do not listen to her. Do not listen to her.